Hey guys, what's going on? Mr. Eddie Mannis, District 18. I don't know why I'm doing this like it's a boxing match. Anyway, just got a chance to catch up with Eddie Mannis, chat a little bit about stuff and junk and whatnots. He did me a super solid for some Scouts thing. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But we're almost in agreement. Check us out at almostinagreement.com. While you're there, you can check out our city election cheat sheet. That's almostinagreement.com/cityelections21. Go there, you get a breakdown of all the candidates that are running for all the districts. Remember that if you are voting in a city race, you get to vote for one person in each district, which is stupid, but that's the way it is. So make sure you're reading more than just your own district. If you don't know what your district is, KGIS links as well as election commission stuff's in there too, so you can learn more about those sides of the details. We have a Facebook page, we have a YouTube channel, we have a Twitter page. Follow us, like us, share us on those kind of things. Go to your favorite podcast provider, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. That helps other people find the podcast as well. So help us out. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get more things. But anyway, Eddie Mannis, everybody, District 18 rep. Here we go. All right, Eddie, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How's it going, Seth?
Oh, I got to get out of the shirt. I forgot about that. All right. So, Eddie Mannis, District 18, I've had him on a couple times. I've personally, for the sake of the podcast, you have probably been either directly or indirectly the most educating elected official since we started doing the show. I know we're not going to relive the past, but just the primary for you was such an interesting little thing, and it's just a tidbit of knowledge of how the system works. And because to me, I didn't realize how functionally separated but intertwined the parties were to the system. And so that was just a really cool thing, and that I was really, really happy to learn through the process. And I'm sorry you had to deal with it for me to learn that, but I get a win for me. And so I don't know, we hadn't talked to you in a while. We've got so much going on right now. And I don't even know where to start. I guess the biggest one was that special session that never got called, though, that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. I was kind of confused on the process. Again, having learned that the session is, the first quarter of the year or so, and then for the rest of the year, you're out doing your day jobs because you have to pay the bills, as well as you're working on stuff for next session. And so I guess to me, I was confused on kind of what the point was, but I guess it got dropped because of the governor's mandate. But I don't know. It helped me understand what was happening there before it kind of got shot down by the governor.
Well, I think that it was, again, you're right. It was the governor's mandate. The governor could call a special session, and it's a whole lot easier for the governor to call the special session if he desires. And we have, I just heard today, we have a special session coming up that we will be going into. It's probably mid-October. But, I think that's a way just to show the importance of it. If the governor's administration puts enough emphasis on it to call a special session, then that's what happens. But we can't take calling special sessions lightly because, like you said, many of us have daytime jobs, and we are in session from January to May, and then we go back to our daytime jobs and make a living and try to put bread on our table. And so that's one thing when we go back into special session. So that is all interrupted, and that's okay if it's warranted. But then the other thing is you got to remember the cost of a special session as well. It's not cheap, and I think my numbers would say there's, for a special session, a minimum of $200,000 to $300,000. And so you have to weigh that in there and say, is this special session, is it just a political thing, right, or is it really warranted? And what is the benefit of all of those challenges?
So what's the context of the upcoming one that the governor's asking for?
I can't give you all the details yet, but it's about economic development.
Okay. And again, I absolutely 100% understand last year's special session call because it was trying to figure out, the much more earlier, COVID didn't really get into full impact mode in Tennessee, at least until after the regular session was over. And so I understand that one for sure. I don't know, I've been trying to figure out education in the state of Tennessee for a long time. And I don't know, especially as a freshman senator or freshman representative, how much you've gotten into getting a better understanding of that, but like, help me understand, if you can, like, who controls the schools technically? Because I think there's a lot of confusion about that right now specifically.
You know, Seth, I serve on the education construction committee. And when I went to Nashville, the speaker gave us all just a list of committees and said, prioritize these. And education, just because I have a love for kids, education is important to me, and I'm passionate about education. And you've heard me say my sister is a second grade educator. And so I keep my ear to the ground pretty much on education. And then some of the more senior representatives in the House, when they heard that I ranked education as a priority, they were like, man, you are a freshman. You have no idea what you're doing. Education is hard. I mean, and I think you've seen it more in the past year or two than ever before. It's almost like I've walked out of education committee meetings and think, man, can we please anybody? Right. I mean, it's, because it's challenging. But to answer your question, and I said this many times, I'm conservative. I truly believe in smaller government and less government overreach. And I think there are lots of things that should be left up to the LEAs, the local school districts. I think most things should be left up to the local school districts. And here's why. If the legislature mandates, then when you mandate, you are imposing the same things on schools in the Big Four, Hamilton County, Knox County, Davidson County, Shelby County, and all of the other larger counties. They have to do everything exactly like the smaller, more rural counties do. You just can't do that. I mean, it's a difference in the way that people live, the way, their habits, their even more rural, how they get to school. It is totally different models. And I believe that even the model that the model in which Knox County would operate, or the environment, is different than even Davidson County.
Right. So
I do think that education decisions should be left up to the local districts. I said to someone last week, I think it's okay if we look at the problems and we say, here's, as a legislature, as a representative, I would vote on how we can make a difference. How far can we move the needle? I mean, what's the percentage of growth rate in our kids?
Right.
But I think we can give those kinds of guidelines or goals, maybe, but putting things in place as far as how they're going to get there and what they can teach and what they can't teach, and having every bit of the supplemental material reviewed. It's creating a bottleneck in the system.
Right. And I mean, for me, the only thing that makes sense, that why a larger central authority would make sense, is to save some money in certain part of the processes. But I don't think I don't think school books are getting any cheaper because we're buying them by the 100,000 instead of the couple thousand per school district. Like there's a part of me that understands that economy of scale, if we could get there, if we did things efficiently in the first place, which we don't seem to do. And so I guess this is a question, like, I've been on a really big school board kick. I've had like 4 out of the 9 school board members in the last couple of weeks. And so again, my understanding is it's like the title should be Tennessee State Schools, Knox County Division. That's what the school board should be titled here, instead of Knox County School Board, because people think that they have a control that they don't, because because of the way the state works. And I understand that part of it. But I think one of the things that's most frustrating to me, both as a parent and as a podcaster trying to understand how government works, is there a goal? Like, as when you go into education committee in the state, is there a goal of what we want high schoolers to be? I mean, I know we have the TCAP parts at the different, very specific grade goals, but is there like a picture of what we want a Tennessee graduate to be, as far as hard skills, as in knowing X, Y, and Z about different subjects, but as well as soft skills. Because as an employer myself, one of the biggest frustrations I've had are soft skill issues with younger employees. And so I don't know, help me understand if there is a framework that we're moving towards or that we think about or what.
Seth, there may be, I guess, maybe a standard or maybe something that we're moving toward. What is our long-term goal with our kids? How do we really want to prepare them? And I personally think, now this is my personal opinion, that we should make sure they are totally prepared to, after graduating from high school, to go out into the world and make a life for themselves.
Right. And
that's whether it's education, whether it's soft skills, whether it's teaching them how to be on time for work. It's all of those things. And that's hard, but I think we miss a lot of the soft skills, and a lot of those soft skills are not being taught at home.
Right.
Just because of the demands of the parents. And I don't mean that disrespectful to parents.
No, that's a reality. You're right. I think
I think that we need to prepare them to be able to function and stand on their own 2 feet when they go out into the world after high school.
Because, right, as I'm understanding things, I think that's one of the things that is probably the hardest taxing item on school systems is some of the umbrella, for lack of a better word, of coverage that we want to have for students, because they deserve to have it. It's not the kid's fault that their parents either, are divorced and it's a single mom working full time trying to raise the kids. Like, it's life. It's hard. And we want that help to be available. But, it's like, one of the questions to me, is that a responsibility of the school, or are there other social programs we could get into place to help on some of the assisting a single mom kind of deals? I don't know. It seems like we're piling everything on the schools. If there's a kid involved, the school takes care of it.
You're exactly right. I've said that so many times, that the role of the school, I mean, look, I went to school a long time ago. I'll give you that. But when I think of what the role of the school was when I was growing up, is not anywhere near the role of the school today. Literally, we went to school, we went in the classroom, we were taught, and then we went home. And if we didn't behave, then we suffered the consequences. That's the generation that I came from. But the more educators I talk to, and I try to stay closely connected to educators and administrators in District 18. And the thing that I hear is, it's not just about education with them. They have to make sure that kids are fed. They have to make sure that kids are clothed. They have to make sure that kids are clean. They have to make sure that kids are not being abused. So they have to look out for all of these challenges just in a kid's everyday life. And then, after all of those, they can educate the child.
Right.
And one of the conversations that I spoke about last session, and I will continue, is we have to do a better job on letting educators educate and find a way to staff our schools with psychologists and counselors.
Right.
That are specialists in those things. And I think that there's a direct benefit and there's an indirect benefit of that. And we have to move there. And there is conversation, and we are going to continue that conversation in January. And also, I think there's ways to help with, it's a different time. The home life is different. If the mother's working, the father's working, or maybe there's just a lot of dysfunction in the family, there needs to be childcare. We're going to have to start looking at those other indirect ways to benefit our family so that the kids
Right.
can get an education.
Right, because I mean, right, like you were saying, the special sessions on some economic stuff. I mean, I think that's one of the questions at play. Like, I have no issues with. It's not like I don't want my wife to work. I get the bonus that she doesn't. We're in a position that she doesn't have to, and she doesn't really want to, and so we have that. We have that plenty of other families don't. And that's one of those things to me that in the broader conversation coming out of schools a little bit is what happened. What happened to the world that it's not about whether it's okay for women to work or not, but it's a question of needing to work, having both parents need to work to pay the bills anymore. That question to me is we've talked about it a ton, and I don't know. I wasn't, I was a kid, so I don't remember. But like, what happened that we got away from being able, to run a household on like a 9-to-5 factory job?
Yeah, that's a
huge question. I know.
That's a huge question. And, my parents, I was raised very blue collar. My parents both worked. I mean, my mother worked in a furniture factory and my dad worked, 2 jobs to try to make ends meet. And there were 3 kids. And so I do think there are lots of families where both parents are working and there's still some challenges within I guess the school structure with the kids. So right. I don't know that the total breakdown is just the fact that both parents are working. I think it's a lot deeper than that.
Absolutely. It's a hugely complex issue for sure. There's 1,000 factors at play in all these different little things that would go into some of the availability of parents to not be as supportive to a kid as other families can. There's thousands of reasons for that. It's one of those, like we were saying, we just keep kind of throwing that extra burden on the schools and on the teachers specifically, and it just seems untenable long term to keep doing this. And both, and everybody argues about how much money we're spending, how much we pay our teachers and stuff like that. They don't get paid enough. That's fine. But how do we get, I don't know. It just seems to me like if we're going to figure out a way to get them more money, I'm concerned that we're going to ask them for more things on the other hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We don't. This is one of those hugely complex issues that I think I agree with you 100%. I think the first step in that solution is to let the locals take care of more of their business. They're going to be able to adjust quicker to the things that their community needs versus others. I think that centralized authority on the schools hampers that a little bit, because I think you could take a lot of community groups that would be willing to help. Because again, that's one of those things I'm really fuzzy on is how much. Say a Scouts type organization can go into the schools and assist with X, Y, and Z. I don't know how much they're allowed to, because I know here at our kids' school, we have a very active PTO. We have a very affluent PTO, which is very nice. We got a new gym floor a couple of years ago and stuff like that. But then I know the state turns around and reallocates, or maybe it's the school board, reallocates some of the funding into some of the lower income schools so that those schools don't get left behind and stuff, which I think is a good program to have. But at the same time, I can't count the number of other parents that are always like, well, I'll do classroom stuff. It's like, take them all, make them clean the bathrooms. Who cares? Use them if they're willing to do it. Let's use the community who wants to be involved in it, because those people are investing in the next generation of kids that's going to be our community.
So last week when we were we did have a special session. It was a joint committee meeting, and it was the joint education committee. And I hear lots of things they're not surprising, they're not new, but the thing that really struck me as we talked about truancy and getting kids to school, and so much of the time it's elementary school kids and middle school kids, and it's impossible if the parent does not put forth the initiative to get up, get dressed, get the kids up to get dressed. If they don't have that initiative, then what are we going to do about truancy with kids? I mean, it's not a kid problem,
right?
I mean, and so my heart just breaks in those situations where the kid could get to school. We'll take care of the kids when they get to school, but how do we get them there? How do we make sure that they are in school? Because it's just what I said a few minutes ago. it's important for them to be in school, yes, for education. But again, I've had so many administrators say, Eddie, I want to see my kids. I want to make sure they're safe. I want to make sure they're fed. I want to make sure they're clean. So it's not just about educating. It's about safety.
Right.
And during COVID, when so many kids were not in the classroom, when no kid was in the classroom, educators were really concerned about the welfare of their students. And it's a very complex issue, and it's one that we can never give up on.
Right.
And I hope that we can make some progress with those challenges.
Okay. I think so too. Like I said, I think I've accidentally become more of a school show than just general politics show, because especially right now with all the mask thing and this federal judge mandate and whatever, which, I'm willing to entertain a conversation about the means of how we got to where we are. I don't care about the masking thing. I'm not going to pick a fight over the specifics of mask or no mask, but the idea that the federal government's dropping down rules, especially, maybe you can help me understand this part. I guess it's I don't know. So this is what's confusing. It's like the state of Tennessee cannot put anything in place by county. It has to be universal statewide. But we have a federal judge coming in and dropping a single county mandate, basically, which seems legally weird to me. Again, don't care about the mask part or not, but just the idea that the state can't pick a county and do a thing with it, but the federal government can.
Well, and here's the way I understand that, Seth. And again, I'm not the expert on how that all came about, because sometimes in the legislature things happen we don't really know how they happen. But this particular situation was fueled by parents who filed a lawsuit. Right. And it was heard by the federal judge, and the federal judge ruled within the lawsuit process that the governor was not in his right to do what he did. And so, and so that's kind of where we are. And I don't know how many other lawsuits have been filed across the state, and if they were heard by federal judges, where that would go. I was thinking there were one or two others that were in process that were filed across the state, but I could be wrong on that.
I'm pretty sure Shelby County did a lawsuit against the opt-out mandate. I do remember reading about that one. Because it was 3 students here in Knox County, 3 students and their families who filed the suit. They have a particular medical need where they are a higher risk for whatever. And so that's what kind of spurred this whole thing on. But it's been crazy. I have the misfortune or whatever as part of the doing these is that I'm in both Facebook groups here in town. We really hate masks, and we really have to have mask groups. And it's going back to everybody didn't get to hear this quick sub story. Eddie did a quick video with me for a scout thing we're doing, and we were talking about about the lack of civility in the way we deal with stuff nowadays. And so I'm on both these Facebook groups, and the way they talk about each other and how terrible the other is and how evil the other team is, or whatever you want to call it, and how they characterize each other was the most interesting part to me. Is it's always how terrible, and it's always the worst one in the group that they pick on. They say that's a leader of the group. The worst one of the group that wants the thing, that's who they jump on, and then they say the whole group is that thing. And that's a very, very unfortunate reality that we live in now, that one person who's part of a group can say the most terrible thing, and now all of a sudden the whole group is that. Because as I followed them both, they're both very valid in their concerns. They both have real issues that they are concerned with. Some of them are ridiculous, but most of them, for the most part, they want what's best for their kids, and this is what they think is best for their kids. But both groups spend more time demonizing each other than actually bothering to talk to each other and see if we can come to some solution. There's second layer to the solution part of it, because it's a state thing, because it's a school system thing. There's more layers to it than just, family A and family B get together and agree this would be a good idea. But it would at least help out if they could at least see each other as people, if nothing else. And so it's again, it's just it's a weird thing of like you were saying in the scout part of things, at least, is that if you're not me, you're wrong. If it wasn't my idea, it's bad. And I hope that I could do a little bit of fixing that as part of this show, and I hope I could open some people's eyes to just slow down a second and listen. Take a second. consider what they're saying before whatever. And yeah, and I again, just to hammer the point down, I think you need to be real careful about demonizing an entire group because of the actions of one member.
Right.
And I think that's a concern that's happening right now. So I don't know. I didn't mean to rant on that. That wasn't necessarily important for you to be here for, but I feel like you agree with me, so I feel like it's a good chance to get it out. So
I've lived it, Seth. I've lived it, so
right.
I know it.
Oh no, okay. So I guess that accidentally transitioned to something I really do want to talk to you about, and I think it's really important. And if you want to be very careful about the way you answer this, I completely understand. How is this good? How do we move forward with some of your issues within the party? It feels like the party is not a big fan of you as you are moving forward into the upcoming reelection. Okay. And I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for you. I like what you've been doing personally. And we'll see who runs against you. But as of right now, I personally would be more than pleased for you to keep the seat because I don't think some of the issues that the party doesn't like about you are worth being an issue. But that's my personal opinion. And just in the machine as it works, as a fan of yours, trying to see where you're going from here, I'm concerned that the party is going to try to hamstring you, and I'm trying to figure out if I can help a little bit, but more just understand like what the game plan is for you.
It's interesting, Seth. Just 2 minutes ago, you said something about not making a determination based on one person, and like the one person in the Facebook group. And then you said the way the party feels about you. And I always have to, and I have to tell myself this, it's not the party that feels that way about me. It's a few people within the party that are very vocal. And just because I think about this some, since when is it that we have to agree 100% to belong to the same party?
I think about 2012. I think that's when it kind of got into place, and that's just the way it is. If you cross that line, you cross the line, and it doesn't matter anymore. I think it's unfortunate.
But it's a moving target.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's a total moving target. And so I look at that and I say, look, I am my basic conservative Republican philosophies are, I believe in personal responsibility. I believe in smaller government. I truly believe in smaller government and government staying out of our lives. I believe that we as Americans should take care of ourselves. We have skills, we have talents. I think that we should take care of ourselves. I think that the rub where I get really, and I think a lot of times, honestly, they've never even stopped to ask me. I've tried to communicate to the small group that really wants to, ostracize me, but they don't want to hear what I have to say.
Right. My concern is that at least a handful of the people that I know of that small group that you're referencing aren't just regular run-of-the-mill Republicans out there. They have some authority to move the scales, for lack of a better word. Is I guess where you were correct. I did kind of group it where you're probably more correct that it's a shorter number of people, but it does seem that the party is that at least traditionally, as I've seen it, that the rank and file kind of follows suit to what some of the leadership is asking for.
I think it's within the organized groups, and if you looked at the membership within the organized groups, I don't know how large it is. I go back though and say they have a right to their own opinion. I've tried talking to many of them, and it's not going to change their mind for whatever reason.
Right.
They will, the small group will call out every vote that I made that might be contrary to what they believe, but then they won't talk about the votes that I made that support what they believe.
Right.
And I understand that. Look, I'm a big boy. I can roll with that. And here's where I am, Seth. I serve in the state legislature because I truly do want to make a difference. And it's a sacrifice for me to be there.
Right.
but I want to be there because I want to try to make a difference. If at any time the people in District 18 decide that they don't want me there, I'll respect that, because like I said, it's a sacrifice for me to be there. I'll respect that. I'll come home, work in my company, and live a great life. So that's the way I have to look at it. And I've just basically come to grips with, I'm not going to change the minds of the people who just, for whatever reason, they just don't like me. They've never met me.
Right.
They've never sat down and talked to me one-on-one, but they've formed their opinion based on what somebody else says.
Right.
So,
and again, like, I think, for, what's the word I'm looking for here, for my rabble-rouserness, for lack of a better word, like, I think as you describe, your conservatism is accurate to the history of the party, but it seems to be not where the party is anymore. And I think that's evident, not just with you. There's a lot of people out there that are, quote, Republicans that don't match up with the new image of Republicanism. And that, I guess for me, I'm hopeful for you, because I'm hopeful that will bring the party back to where it used to be and get more candidates that are more like you than the further right, little bit crazy ones, kind of that they've started pushing into the system. And so, like, again, this goes all the way back to the Oster thing, and why I've enjoyed you so much personally is because, at least by the primary, the majority of right-leaning people in Knox County prefer your style of Republicanism to what the party is pushing towards. And I think that is a net good thing for politics in general, because it pushes back against the "I hate you all the time" kind of rhetoric that goes on, and it pushes back against some of the, we say small government, but we don't really mean it when we start doing stuff that tends to happen. And so, again, I don't know, like, there's part of me that I want to pitch a whole program at you on what I think you should do. Don't take my word for anything, because I don't know nothing. But I think it's interesting. I think it's important. I think I think what you're doing can change the future of politics in Tennessee and East Tennessee specifically, and I'm here for it. I like it, and I wish you the best in it. And so, I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. So take that for what you will.
So it's for the past, I guess, 8 or 9 months. I think you and I have talked about this before. I had no idea what to expect when I announced, when I said that I would run and agreed to run and announced that I was going to. I didn't know what to expect, and that was really surprising to me. And then moving forward, it was just seemed like every week there was a new tone or something else that I was having to I won't even say fight, that I would just hear, because I don't fight it. I can't fight it. And so, and I just have to do what I feel is right. A lot of people say this, I truly am more of a Howard Baker, Ronald Reagan Republican. And it's just the way I grew up. And it's what I want to do, because I don't think if we keep pushing far to the right and far to the left, we are never going to get anything done at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level. We can't keep doing that, because the only people that are suffering are the people we represent. And at some point, we have to come back to the middle. And I don't mean middle, but open your minds to listen to other people. So.
Okay. All right. I got to call it a show. We got a fire in the kitchen.
Okay.
Thanks, Eddie.
Take care, Sam.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Yeah, didn't burn the house down. But smoke alarm was going off. As you guys know, the missus broke her leg, so she was doing dinner for the boys while I was talking to Eddie. So I had to go jump out for that. So I appreciate Eddie. I apologize for the abrupt cutoff. But essentially, Eddie was saying how we need to figure out how to get along so that we can talk to each other so that we can get things done. I don't know. Doesn't sound that crazy to me. We're almost in agreement. Almost in agreement at gmail.com. find us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com/cityelections21. You can get our city cheat sheet there. It's got all the different candidates as well as KGIS. And that election commission with that Chris Davis guy. I've got to reference him on every show, right? We've got more shows coming up. I've got Watson from school board on Friday. I've got another school board member next week. Got a hunting trip going on this weekend, too. It's going to be crazy madness busy time. So stay tuned. We're going to keep things going. Please like, share, subscribe, do all those things. Help us get the word out. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep doing more shows. We're going to keep doing more things. We're going to learn more about how this thing works. Thanks again, Eddie, for helping out with the scout thing, too. Good night, everybody.